let's look at another application of law of sines. So in this example, we have Dulce, and she is wanting to fence her backyard, and it has a triangular shape. And she's using the back of her house as one side of the enclosed area, so she just needs fence along the other two sides of her backyard. And she knows that the angles between the house and those two sides, where the fencing is going to go, are 55 degrees and 49 degrees. Okay. So the two parts to this question. The first part is, if the width of the house is 60 feet, how much fencing does Dulce need? So again, as always, let's draw a picture. You can draw this triangle shaped however you want for the most part. I'm going to kind of do it in typical fashion, the way I've been drawing all these before. We're going to draw a horizontal line, and this represents her house. And I know that the length of the house is 60 feet. Okay, and then we're told that the angle between the house and each side is 55 and 49 degrees. So both of those are acute angles. So if we were to draw a side, say 55 degrees, and another side of 49 degrees, and again, those are gonna, you could extend them upwards or downwards. It doesn't matter as long as they both go the same direction. So I'm gonna draw them extending upwards, and so they're gonna meet at this point up here at the top. All right, so that's going to be the triangle that we're working with. Okay, we know the length of the bottom side is 60 feet, and then we know the two angles on either end of that bottom side are 55 and 49 degrees. So again, looking at the information we have, that would be in two angles and the side that's between them. Okay, so again, that's angle side angle, which is a law of sines problem. Okay, so we want to find, Dulce wants to find how much fencing she needs, which she's fencing the two lengths of the triangle that don't correspond to the house. And so let's just call the side opposite 49x and the side opposite the 55 degree angle y. The amount of fencing that Dulce needs is just the sum of those two lengths, so x plus y. So I need to figure out the value of x and the value of y, and then add them together, and that will give us how much fencing she needs. So this is a law of sines problem, so let's go ahead and set up our law of sine proportions. So we know, let's do the 55 degree first. So sine of 55 degrees over its opposite side y has to equal the sine of 49 degrees over side x, and that has to equal the sine of the third angle. I don't know. Let's just call that C. We don't have a letter for it yet. We'll just call it C, though. And so that's going to be sine C over the length of the house, which is 60 feet. So sine C over 60. Again, we have three fractions. Each fraction, we have one known and one unknown, so we need to find another piece of information before we can actually solve any of these proportions. Okay. But again, angle side angle, it's easy to do that. We know that the length of the three sides, we know the measure of the three angles has to be 180. Okay. So that means we have 55 plus 49 plus our unknown angle C has to be 180 degrees. And so that means that C is going to be 76 degrees. Okay, so we now know all three of our angles, and that gives us the missing value of our side angle C. So sine of 76 degrees over side 60. Okay, so we just need to find x and y. We're going to set up our two proportions and solve them. All right, so my first proportion, I'm going to have the sine of 55 degrees over y is equal to the sine of 76 degrees over 60. We cross multiply, So 60 times the sine of 55 degrees is equal to y times the sine of 76 degrees. We divide everything by the sine of 76, and so we get y is equal to 60 times the sine of 55 degrees over the sine of 76 degrees. And that will result in a y value of 61.60 feet. Okay. Do the same thing for x. So now we have the sine of 49 degrees over x is equal to the sine of 76 degrees over 60. We cross multiply and divide. I'll skip the algebra, it's the same here. So x is going to equal 60 times the sine of 49 degrees over the sine of 76 degrees. And so if we compute that, we are going to get that x is equal to 46.67 feet. Okay, so we found the length of both x and y. Those are not my answer, though. Remember, for Dulce, she needs to know the sum of those two. So what is x plus y? So we want to compute what is the sum of 46.67 plus 61.60. And the sum of that is going to be 108.27 feet. So Dulce needs to buy 108.27 feet of fencing. The second part of this question, Dulce also wants to put grass seed throughout her yard. And so we're told that the grass seed costs 25 cents per square foot. And so we want to figure out how much it's going to cost. So cost per square foot is a measurement of area. So to figure out how much it's going to cost her, we need to figure out what's the area of this triangle. Okay. And so right now there's two formulas that we could use. There's the old standard, area is 1/2 the base times the height. Unfortunately, we don't know what the length of the height is. You could use any of the sides of the triangle as the base, but we don't have a perpendicular height to any of those sides. So we can't use that one. Okay. The other option is that we could say the area is equal to 1/2 a times b times the sine of theta. Okay. And so in this example, you have to have a triangle. The letters aren't important, but you need two sides and you need the angle that's between them. Okay, so angle theta is the angle between side A and side B. And in this case, we know all three angles and we know all three sides. So you can kind of pick whichever one you want. So let's use our house length of 60 feet. And let's use side X, and then we'll use the angle of 55 degrees. Let's use those three values. So the area of this triangle is going to be 1/2 60 feet times X, which is 46.67 feet, times the sine of the angle between them, which is 55 degrees. Okay, and again, you'll get the same answer if you pick a different pairing of sides and angles. This is just the ones I chose to use this time. If we multiply all that out, we will get an area of 1,146.87 square feet. Okay, so that's the area, but it's not the cost. So how do we find cost? Well, you take the area times the price per area. Okay, so our cost is area times the price. So if I take this 1,146.87 square feet and I multiply that by 25 cents per square foot, I end up getting a value of 286.72. and that's going to be in dollars. So again, it's only in dollars. That's the only unit left because the square feet canceled out. Okay, so Dulce needs to buy 108.27 feet of fencing to enclose her yard, and she needs to buy $286.72 worth of grass seed.